Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Thursday, August 27th, and this week, Uber adds live streams, Waymo disses Tesla, and test drivers are getting hurt. LegalRideshare breaks it down. So as you can see, I'm doing it solo today, another car edition of This Week in Rideshare, and we're going to hop right in. First story, Uber is launching live streaming for teen accounts. This is from TechCrunch, and they reported, quote, the new live streaming feature uses the driver's selfie camera for the video feed. Once the ride starts, the parent or guardian account gets a notification if the video stream is available. If they choose to watch the stream, both the driver and the teen are notified. Uber said that only parents' or guardians' accounts linked to the teen's account can look at the live stream. There is no opt-out for others who might be traveling with the teen to not appear on the live feed. So we had discussed this last week with the teen accounts and potentially even tween accounts coming to Uber. So they're now rolling out this live streaming feature, which I think on the surface is a pretty good idea. But of course, immediately there's a caveat that, hey, if you're with the teen, you can't opt out with it. It also says that, it's only guardians or parents linked to the teen's account. But I don't know. There just seems to be so many people sharing accounts. How can you check if it's actually the parent's account or someone sharing the parent's account? There seems to be a major issue with this all the time. And Uber just sort of dismisses it like, hey, no, that's not really an issue. But we know for a fact, we've talked to drivers about it. I've talked to passengers about it who said that the ride was requested by someone else. So this happens all the time. I don't know how this is going to affect the teen features and the live stream. It's also very interesting because, next time we'll have Bryant weigh in here. A car, obviously, being in an Uber isn't a public location. It's private. But they're all rights to privacy, and I think in some states you're going to need to know that you're being recorded. I know some states it doesn't matter, but the fact that you can't opt out of this and the fact that it pretty much activates automatically is going to be interesting to see how they handle it. But the company said that its feature will be live in 9 markets. So this is Atlanta, Cleveland, Rhode Island, and others. Over the coming weeks, it'll be available across the entire United States. So this is happening. They're doing it, and they're often very good at just sort of saying, hey, we're doing this thing, and now it's live. So we'll see what the response is. We'll see if it's as useful as they're acting like it is. Honestly, I think it's better to have it than not, but as always, they always seem to be about 80% correct on this stuff and then 20% random. And so we're going to see how this plays out. But moving on to the second story here, which is interesting because we've been talking about this, of course, with the cybercabs and Waymo and Tesla and the whole market. But Waymo has some choice words for Tesla. And this is from Electric. And they reported, Waymo published a list of 10 AI lessons from driving more than 200 million fully autonomous miles. And several of them read as a direct rebuke of Tesla's self-driving strategy without ever naming Tesla. The sharpest, trying to turn a driver assist system into full autonomy is and this is what they say, false summit. That's according to Waymo. That's exactly what Tesla is attempting with their full self-driving. Waymo's argument is that neither billions of simulated miles nor millions of supervised human present miles can replicate what a system learns once it operates with no human backup. That's a pointed contrast with Tesla, which trains FSD on data from a fleet of customer cars whose drivers remain legally responsible for the vehicle. I couldn't agree more. I know this is what Tesla is aiming for, and they think it's going to work. It doesn't matter. The repetition is great, but that is not real-world road conditions. We know this. We've seen even with Waymos where roads that are under construction or maybe don't have the right signs or the signs are covered, handled differently. But at least the systems are trying to adapt and learn. When you're using human or driver assisted, it's not going to ever learn those every single billion, random versions of that same road. Yes, maybe 60 to 70% if nothing is wrong. Sure, it'll work and it'll drive. But that's just not how driving works. As we all know, a lot of times it's a second or a half a second response to something that changes on your everyday commute, your everyday drive. I don't see how Cybercab is going to figure this out, or Tesla themselves. We just talked last week that they're going to be rolling out cyber cabs for their employees. Good luck, employees. That's all I can say. And, Torsten, the rideshare professor, said the exact same thing last week. So interesting timing on this. It seems a lot of times we will discuss stuff. And then a week later, a lot of the other major media outlets will start covering some of this. So interesting to see if Tesla has any sort of rebuttal to this. But honestly, I agree. And I think this is it's interesting that Waymo is publishing these lessons. But in a lot of ways, it's, they're the leaders in it and they started it and they're sort of warning others. Hey, if you think you can do this, look how hard it is. We're having a tough time and we had a multiple years head start. So I think it's both a flex on how great they think they are, but also a warning for others who think it's easy. And obviously it's not. And moving on to the final story today, back to Waymo. Waymo's test drivers are getting hurt. And this is from TechCrunch, and they reported, quote, test drivers for Waymo and Zoox sustained more than 24 injuries in 2024 and 2025 from hard braking or other sudden movements made by the autonomous vehicles. This is according to a TechCrunch review of data submitted to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. These test drivers, who put autonomous vehicles through their paces on public roads, have suffered sprains, strains, whiplash, and more, according to the data in interviews with former and current workers. Some have been sidelined for weeks or months. This is a huge story that has just come out. I actually just sent this to Brian, and he is writing an op-ed right now, really kind of denouncing that this is happening at such of a high level, and are we really ready for autonomous vehicles? It's something that's not covered. Obviously, the big news covers the huge crashes, or like when the Teslas fail, or the Waymos drive in circles. But this is a subtle but serious issue. The sudden, starts and stops and turns. Again, these are machines. They don't operate like humans. They're not thinking about the G-force or the impact or the stopping intensity of a human. And so it's clearly showing that these test drivers are getting seriously injured. And a lot of times, and we deal with this all the time at LegalRideshare, small accidents, small bumps and bruises can really sustain major injuries over time. We did an entire video called Minor Injuries Cause Major Concerns. And so this needs to be looked at a lot more seriously than it is. And this is the first time I've even seen this type of story about something very specific like this. Love to get Brian Greening on next week to discuss it. We may even do a whole segment about these sort of minor injuries with robotaxis, because I haven't seen it yet. And this is the first time. And again, this is due to data being gathered, and that's why TechCrunch is reporting on it. Waymo is not really announcing it. They just got their hands on it, which says a lot. Now, this just came out. So Waymo may rebuttal this and may say, hey, we've gotten better. That was data from a year ago. That's probably what they're going to say. I do need to highlight, too, it isn't just Waymo. As you can see here, 2 current and 3 former Zoox contractors told TechCrunch that the company's test fleet vehicles were still braking pretty hard, and they're saying their contractors are still getting hurt. So it's not just Waymo. There's way more Waymos on the road than, say, the Zoox, but this is obviously a problem across the board, and hopefully they figure this out. So that is the stories for this week. But everyone, riders, drivers, passengers, and victims, please, if you ever get involved into an accident or an injury, do not hesitate to contact LegalRideshare. We're the first firm in the U.S. entirely dedicated to rideshare accidents and injuries, including robotaxi accidents and injuries. You can find all of our information at LegalRideshare.com, and consultations are always free. Well, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.